Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today as we talk about all of our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that types of good stuff. Got a few things to talk about here today. How is Ant-Man going to be expected to do following Avengers Infinity War? John Lasseter, could his days at Pixar be over? That and a few things more. But before we get into more in-depth stuff, when you watch the John Campea Show, I want to make sure you're caught up to date on all the things going on in the world of movie news, even if we don't have time to go in depth into any of them. So that's why we put together this little segment we call the Movie News Feed. Check it out. First up, we all know that a third installment of the John Wick franchise is on the way, and coming out of CinemaCon in Las Vegas is our first look at the teaser poster as well as the official plot synopsis. The synopsis reads like this. John Wick, played by Keanu Reeves, is on the run for two reasons. He's being hunted for a global $14 million open contract on his life and for breaking a central rule, taking a life on Continental Hotel grounds. The victim was a member of the High Table who ordered the open contract. John should have already been executed, except the Continental's manager, Winston, has given him a 1-hour grace period before he's excommunicado, membership revoked, banned from all services, and cut off from other members. John uses the services industry to stay alive as he fights and kills his way out of New York City. John Wick 3 is scheduled to hit theaters on May 17th, 2019. Next up, the first Deadpool movie opened to a surprisingly huge $132 million opening weekend and went on to become the highest grossing R-rated film of all time with $783 million at the box office. Deadpool 2, however, looks like it's going to eclipse that. According to reports, early tracking for Deadpool 2 say the film is positioned to make over $150 million on its opening weekend in May. Deadpool 2 follows our hero and his team of mutants, known collectively as X-Force, as they protect a young boy from Cable, played by Josh Brolin. David Leitch directed from a script by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick and Ryan Reynolds himself. Zazie Beetz, TJ Miller, Marina Baccarin, and Leslie Uggams round out the cast. Deadpool 2 hits theaters on May 18th. Next up, one of the big surprise hits this year has been John Krasinski's horror/thriller film, A Quiet Place. The film took in a surprising $50 million on its opening weekend and has already made over $213 million at the box office on just a modest $17 million budget. With those kinds of numbers, it comes as no surprise that Paramount has announced that they are officially working on a sequel to the film. The interesting thing here is, where do they go with it? For those of you who have seen the movie, you know this presents a big challenge. Do they go forward? Do they do a prequel? Does Krasinski come back to direct again? I guess we're just gonna have to wait and find out. Next up, we've known for a while that Star Wars Rebels executive producer Dave Filoni was working on another Star Wars animated series, but the details to that have been a closely held secret until now. Disney revealed at CinemaCon that the name of the new show is Star Wars Resistance. From Slash Film, Star Wars Resistance will be set prior to The Force Awakens and feature appearances from Force Awakens characters like Poe Dameron and Captain Phasma. Oscar Isaac and Gwendolyn Christie will both return to voice the characters they've played in live action. BB-8 also appears in the promo image, so expect him to be rolling through the series as well. Star Wars Resistance is currently in production and will premiere this fall on Disney Channel in the US and on Disney XD around the world. And finally, a short time ago, we got our first look at the trailer for the upcoming Winnie the Pooh film, Christopher Robin. In the trailer, we got our first look at Winnie the Pooh, and now, via Entertainment Weekly, we get our first look at the characters of Piglet, Eeyore, and Tigger. Christopher Robin is stuck in a job where he is overworked, underpaid, and facing an uncertain future. He has a family of his own, but his work has become his life, leaving little time for his wife and daughter, and he has all but forgotten his childhood spent with a simple-minded, honey-loving stuffed bear and his friends. But when he is reunited with Winnie the Pooh, now tattered and soiled from years of hugs and play, a spark is rekindled, and he is reminded of the endless days of childlike wonder and make-believe that defined his youth, when doing nothing could be considered doing something. Christopher Robin opens in theaters on August 3rd. And that'll do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed. All right, and now you are all caught up on everything going on in the world of movie news. Now let's get to our main topics. And our main topics are topics submitted by you. How do you get a topic or question on The John Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put that word topic in the subject line and keep your emails to 90 words or less, or else I can't even bother using them. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to it. The first question today comes to us from Patreon supporter CJ Robinson, who writes, with most of us being a day or less away from seeing Infinity War, I was wondering if you think Ant-Man and the Wasp will get a boost in box office from Avengers. I think Ant-Man is often overlooked as a great addition to the MCU. Your thoughts? And I completely agree with you. Well, first, number one, it is Avengers Infinity War Day. Avengers Infinity War opens nationwide tonight, depending on where you are in the country. Could be just 2 hours away, could be 1 hour away, could be 4 hours away, whatever. The main thing is, it's tonight. And I agree with you. Ant-Man is a tragically undervalued character in the MCU. Now, like a lot of people, I questioned why on earth do an Ant-Man movie? Like, I know it all got started with Edgar Wright, and that's great, but really, Ant-Man? And then they did it. They cast Paul Rudd, which I thought was great, and I thought the movie was wonderful. And it was a really nice change of pace from the other stuff going on in the MCU. Now, here's the thing. Ant-Man's coming out like just 2 months from now. Just a couple of months after Avengers Infinity War, which is kind of nuts. So the question is, can it ride the momentum of Avengers Infinity War, or will it get stuck on some kind of island? It all depends on how well the audience responds to Avengers Infinity War. Now, if you saw my review, I really like Avengers Infinity War quite a bit. I have my issues with it. It's overcrowded. As a result, there's some complications as a result of that, but the action is wonderful. The mythology behind it's great, and they've got the best villain they've ever had in any movie. So it's certainly the good far outweighs the bad. It's quite an experience, and you will be exhausted after you see the movie. So if the reaction from the audience is really positive, I do believe we'll see some of that roll over into Ant-Man, especially since it is possible that Avengers Infinity War is still going to be in theaters by the time Ant-Man and the Wasp comes around. So yes, I do think, and look, Ant-Man and the Wasp also didn't do gangbusters business at the box office. I think it made somewhere around the neighborhood of $550 million. I think it was like $550 million. Let me look at $519 million. So $519 million, which is great. It made a profit. It was very profitable, but I mean, not a huge international blockbuster, you know what I'm saying? I think you're going to see Ant-Man and the Wasp improve upon that at the box office, and I think Avengers Infinity War is going to have something to do with that. But again, you're right. I think people underestimate how good that first Ant-Man movie is. All right, let's get on to our second question. And the second question today comes to us from Austin Farley, who writes, Paramount CEO announced at CinemaCon that a sequel to A Quiet Place, we talked about this in the movie news feed, is officially in the works. While I absolutely loved the movie, and it's my favorite movie of 2018 so far, having not seen Avengers yet, I must admit I'm not crazy about this. I believe they did that movie almost to perfection, and any sequel would probably be a bit of a letdown. What direction do you think they could take to keep the franchise interesting and fresh? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Austin. Of course, people... I mean, it's just going to its third week. A Quiet Place, everybody's still buzzing about this movie. Might be my favorite movie of the year so far. Might be. It's up for debate. But it's magnificent. What John Krasinski did with that film is just mind-boggling good. It's so great. Now, getting to the one part of your email when you say, I'm concerned because they did the first one near perfection, that any sequel will just be a letdown. Well, I'm glad they didn't say that about The Godfather. I mean, because there were people who said, why would you do another Godfather? The first Godfather was perfect. And what do? They give us The Godfather 2, and some people think that is the greatest film of all time. I'm glad they didn't say that about Star Wars. Why do another one? The first one was like perfect. It ended perfect. And they did another one. And a lot of people think Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie ever made. Look, we have a history of great sequels to great movies. Are there terrible sequels to great movies? Absolutely they are. Do more sequels suck compared to being great? Yes. But more movies suck compared to being great, just in general, whether they're sequels or not. The question becomes, can they come up with a good idea for another story? And where do you go with it? I mean, like, that's the thing that we mentioned in the movie news feed, right? It's like, for those of you who have seen the movie, and I'm not going to spoil anything here, but for those of you who've seen the movie, it does present an interesting conundrum. Do you move forward in the story? Do you do a true, proper sequel? Do you do a prequel story to the events that lead up to the events of A Quiet Place? Do you do a semi-sequel where you're doing another story, but maybe not from the John Krasinski and his family's point of view? I mean, there are some options, but what it all comes down to is, can they come up with a good idea? And if you can come up with a good idea for a movie that'll work, then by all means. And look, I'm not one of these people who subscribe to this theory that you should only do a sequel if you can make it better than the first. I don't believe in that at all. I do not subscribe. Just give me a good movie. I'm a film fan. The only theory I subscribe to is give me a good movie. No, I don't ask every movie that comes out in theaters to be as good as The Godfather. If that was the standard, we wouldn't have very many movies. Just give me a good movie. And as long as they can do a good movie, that's all. But then again, it may be tragic, it may be terrible, it may be train wreck. Sure, it could, but why not take the shot? Like, we can't live in fear of taking risks because we're always afraid that the worst might happen. If that's the case, we'll never get anywhere. And we shouldn't ask studios to live in fear. Oh, don't make that movie because it might not work. Well, then you'll never make any movie. Let them make the movie. And look, if they make the sequel and it's terrible, okay, so what? It doesn't change the original. We still have the original in all of its glory. So yeah, let's not breed an atmosphere of fear. I think it'll be fine, but it'll all come down to what kind of an idea can they come up with. All right. Moving on now to the third and final main topic sent in by you guys. And this one comes to us from Erica McCarthy, who writes, "Hi, John. First of all, I love your show." Thank you so much, Erica. "Not a lot of my friends like to just sit and talk about movies for hours on end, so your show fills that void for me." Well, I'm glad we can all be here for you, Erica. Speaking of Johns, with John Lasseter's supposed 6-month hiatus from Disney almost over, there are reports that Disney may part ways with him over rumors of abuse, bullying, heavy drinking, stealing ideas, and taking credit that belonged to others. My question is, should Disney just cut ties with Lasseter? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Erica. And it's, coming off the Cosby announcement today that, Cosby was convicted. Bill Cosby was found guilty today. The John Lasseter thing was shocking when it all came out. Now, understand that when the story about Lasseter first came out like 6 months ago, I didn't investigate it. I didn't look into it. I just read, okay, there was some allegations of inappropriate behavior. As far as I know, it was just inappropriate. Like, as far as I know, nobody said he assaulted anyone or anything like that. But the claim was inappropriate behavior, which is bad enough on its own. Now, he was accused of inappropriate behavior and all that kind of stuff. And that as a result, he was going to step away from the company for 6 months. So that all kind of just quietly went away. And Lasseter left the company for 6 months. What was interesting is when Coco won Best Animated Feature this year, nobody mentioned John Lasseter. And I think almost every other time, understandably so, almost every other time that a Pixar film has won Best Animated Feature, John Lasseter gets mentioned. I think so, at any rate. And he wasn't even mentioned. So anyway, then comes out this report yesterday. I believe it was The Hollywood Reporter that ran this story about John Lasseter. That it was a lot more than just a couple of women just saying he was acting kind of inappropriately. It was more than that, according to this report. There are stories about a lot of people at Pixar find him to be a tyrant. That he, at official functions gets drunk and is a mean drunk when he gets drunk. Accusations that he actually stole the idea for Cars and then got rid of the guy who came up with the idea and then took all the credit for Cars. Again, I'm not saying these are facts. I'm just saying this is all stuff that was communicated to the Hollywood Reporter as they did an investigation on this. Some people saying that he was just a bully to deal with. That if you were in his inner circle, fine. But if you weren't a part of his trusted inner circle, you're gone. And just a long, long laundry list of abuses of power in many, many different forms, shapes and forms. Now, What makes all this interesting is that Disney head honcho, Bob Iger, is not in the putting out fires business. He does not like putting out fires. He just wants to eliminate anything that could cause smoke in the first place. So I remember when Lasseter was first put on this 6-month hiatus, there were some people talking about, will Iger even want to bring him back? Because Iger doesn't like dealing with this type of image problem. Iger does not like image problems, and understandably so. But now reading this report, is this the type of thing? Like, if you bring John Lasseter back, are you going to cause more problems at Pixar than you're solving? Are people going to be upset if you bring him back? Is it sending the wrong message to the employees and to the corporate culture at Pixar and Disney as a whole? Are you sending the wrong message if you bring him back? Now, everything in that Hollywood Reporter report could be bupkis. It could all be garbage. I don't know. I got a feeling Bob Iger knows, though. So it's going to be interesting to see what Bob Iger does here. But now, this isn't just another employee. This is John Lasseter. The guy who basically, when you go back to the foundations, he is one of the foundational pioneering forces that really made Pixar what it is. It's not just some dude that we're just going to get rid of because he acted like an ass. It is like the absolute pillar of that company. And not just of Pixar, he's also the head of Disney Animation. He's the chief creative officer of all of it, Pixar and Disney. That ain't easy. That ain't easy. Now, just because it isn't easy doesn't mean it's not right, but I mean, it's not easy. We've got to acknowledge it's not easy. So, look, I'm not one of these guys that hears a report about somebody and then instantly believes it, but it seems like they talk to a lot of people. And it seems like there are some very upset people over there. And understanding the various things that we know about Bob Iger, I think it looks like John Lasseter could be done at Pixar. And if John Lasseter is done at Pixar, where does Pixar go from here? That's going to be interesting to see. Where does Pixar go from here without Lasseter? Where are they in 5 years without Lasseter? And what happens to Lasseter after this? Does Lasseter retire? I mean, he's got tons of money, and if Disney gets rid of him, I'm sure he's got he's the chief creative officer, he's a CCO, I'm sure he's got some kind of golden parachute there if they do decide to part ways. I'm sure he's rich and he's set for life, and he's 61 years old. Maybe he's just fine. Maybe he gets fired from Disney and he doesn't do anything else. Does a Sony animation studio come along and pick him up? Or does he just retire? I mean, I don't know. A lot of unanswered questions. Right now, though, I got to say, I'd probably be a little bit surprised if he didn't leave Disney. I think he's either going to leave as a result of a conversation with Bob Iger, and if he doesn't leave, then Bob Iger just may straight up release him. We're going to find out soon here, because like Erica said in the email, this 6-month hiatus is almost up, and we're going to find out here pretty soon. It's a complicated issue for sure, and it is going to be interesting to see how all parties deal with this. All right, guys, that will do it for those main topics. Now, what I like to do every day on the John Campea Show is take some live questions. Now, this particular show is actually pre-recorded because YouTube, for whatever reason, was not receiving the live stream. It wasn't streaming the show properly. But a lot of people had already sent in live questions. And so I am very lucky that I just happen to still have those live questions all set up here and ready to go. So let's get to the live questions that got sent in a little bit earlier. And we're starting off with James Welsh, who writes, thoughts on the Bill Cosby conviction? I got to tell you, man, the Bill Cosby conviction is heartbreaking to me. No, not because, oh, John, you're heartbroken that a guy who raped women is getting what is due. No. That's not what I'm heartbroken about. What I'm heartbroken about is that the conviction basically tells me that it was all true. And there was just a part in my heart that didn't want it to be true because it's Bill Cosby. You know, if you guys have followed me for any period of time, you know for years I've always said he's the best comic of all time. Bill Cosby himself, the name of the stand-up concert, Bill Cosby himself, I think is the greatest stand-up comedy concert of all time. I've heard Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld and all these all-time great stand-up comedians saying, oh, there's no question who the greatest stand-up comedian of all time is. It's Bill Cosby. I grew up watching Cosby. And to find this stuff out, Dr. Huxtable, what are you doing? To find out this stuff was heartbreaking to me. It shattered an image that I thought was one of the safe ones. I thought the image we had of Bill Cosby was one of the safe images. And I just really wanted it to not be true. And finding out that, yeah, it's true. It's devastating to me. It ain't devastating at all that he's going to, get called out for it and he's going to get whatever punishment. I don't know how hard you can punish the dude. He's 80 years old, but I'm not heartbroken about that. I'm heartbroken that it was true. And I'm actually a little bit devastated about it. Because again, the Bill Cosby was like, it was like Star Wars with me growing up. I was growing up with Bill Cosby. And it's tough. It is tough. It's really sad. I'm really, really sad about that it was true. Not that he got caught. I'm sad that it was true. That's what I'm sad about. All right. Degoto1 writes, do you watch the NFL draft? No. I'm a big fan of the NFL. I don't need to watch the draft. There's nothing exciting. Like, did you see the way he walked to the stage? There's nothing exciting about it. I can just read what happened later. So, and hey, that's not a knock on anybody who does like watching the NFL draft. That's awesome if you do, but no, I'm not somebody who watches the draft. I'm interested in the results of the draft, but I don't watch the draft. Hector Jetter writes, Gio, can't wait to hear your reaction to God of War. Truly is an amazing gaming experience. I guarantee your mouth will drop the moment you start it. Everybody's telling me that, man. Everybody's just raving about God of War. I cannot wait. This weekend, I'm going to pick it up. I am going to pick it up this weekend. I'll play it a little bit. I'm not going to do live streaming. Like, I'm not going to Twitch me playing because I suck, especially at console games. I suck. So forgive me that I don't want to put my suckage on display for everybody to watch and ridicule me for. But I will play it, and then I will give you guys my thoughts on it, but I am excited to give it a shot. Okay, AFC writes, guy next to me at Infinity War forgot to shower night before. Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. There are very few things as distracting as having to sit close to somebody who did not shower. That's just because there's no getting away from that. Like somebody clicking their teeth. Eventually, you can train yourself to drown out the sound. Like just the sound just becomes white noise. Something's a little too bright, your eyes will adjust. Somebody smells bad that you got to sit by. You don't adjust to it. You don't get used to it. And I feel bad for you because that is going to be a distraction through the whole film. Sorry to hear about that, man. That sucks. Hector Jeter writes, tonight's the night, Dolby Prime, here I come. Me too, buddy. I'm going to a Dolby Prime tonight. Me and Ray are going to go check out Avengers Infinity War in a Dolby Prime theater tonight. I hope you have a great time. I hope everybody around you has a good time. And let the last message be a message to all of us, guys. Shower before you go. Please shower before you go. Be courteous of everybody else. AFC writes, left Infinity War with a headache and a lot to take in. So good. Yeah, one of the things I mentioned on open mic this morning was y'all are going to be exhausted. Like you're going to be straight up exhausted after this movie because so much happens and so much goes on in this movie. You're going to straight up be exhausted when you see it. Hector follows up again with, thankfully haven't got spoiled yet. I will never forget when I was spoiled for Star Wars The Force Awakens when I got notified Han Solo dies is now following you on IG. I know, right? People say, well, if you don't want to get a spoiler, just don't go to where there'll be spoilers. You don't understand. Trolls find ways. I've had people emailing me about watching a woodworking video on YouTube and going through the comments and somebody took the Forbes spoiler article about Infinity War, copied and pasted a bunch of it right in there. And they got spoiled. Somebody today on open mic was telling us about how they were reading an article on ESPN and boom, somebody had dropped in a bunch of spoilers. Then somebody just wants to start a new account and starts following everybody so they're going to see Han Solo dies. Now, I will say this though. If you think you've been spoiled, I had somebody write me this morning complaining about, somebody ruined this part of Infinity War for me. And they told me what the spoiler was. And it wasn't true. So there was somebody, today who was writing to me, lamenting the fact that a big thing in Avengers Infinity War got spoiled for them, and it wasn't true. Because I've seen the movie. I know that it wasn't true. I'm not going to tell you what it was because that might spoil something for you. And I decided not to write back to this guy. Because I thought, you know what? I'm not going to tell him that's not true, thus spoiling that for him. So I'm just going to stay quiet. And then he'll be surprised when he goes to the movie tonight and sees that the spoiler heard. So if you're somebody that you believe that got spoiled, there are fake spoilers going around out there. So there is hold out hope that there is a possibility that maybe the spoilers you heard were fake spoilers. Here's hoping at any rate. All right, next one comes to us from Jabin Carter, who writes, breaking news, J.J. Abrams announces Star Wars Episode 9 is, in fact, Cloverfield 4. Yeah, one of the things that J.J. did mention today at Comic-Con, or at CinemaCon, I should say, was that this new film they're working on, Overlord, not connected to Cloverfield. But they are tossing around the idea of another Cloverfield movie. I for one, am done with Cloverfield. The last one was garbage. And Cloverfield was never a big hit. We talked about this on Open Mic this morning, but like the first Cloverfield movie, some people think, oh, it's some kind of big hit. It made like $170 million worldwide, total. Which, I mean, it wasn't bad for like a $35, $40 million film, but it's not like it was some global success that you got to build a franchise around. So like, look, all due respect to everybody who likes Cloverfield and the franchise. That's cool that you like it. I'm not trying to poo-poo on you at all. I'm just saying for me personally, I'm kind of over the whole thing. I have, my interest in the Cloverfield franchise is gone, to be frank with you, but who knows? We'll see what happens. All right. 6,000 miles per hour X writes, given how dark Infinity War is, can you see losing legs at the box office? I think it's going to be tough bringing families back for repeats. I don't think so. I really don't. I think there are darker family films out there. Yeah, no, I honestly, now granted, I don't have kids. Maybe you have kids and you would know 10 times better than I do. But, you know, honestly, off the top of my head, I don't think it's going to be a problem now that I'm thinking about it. I really don't think so. I think people will be fine with it. I really do. Now, there's going to be the odd exception, of course. Some people don't want to see any violence and bring their kids. Sure, that's fine. But if you're taking your kid to see an Avengers movie, you know there's going to be violence. You've seen the other MCU movies. So if you're okay bringing them once, I think you'll be okay bringing them again. Ben Rayner writes, but again, I do see why you're asking, but I just can't talk about why you're asking because that would be spoilery. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, did you see the Marvel Bunch on the Jimmy Fallon MCU version of Bracey Bunch intro? Really funny. I saw on my Twitter feed that was there, and I didn't watch it. They did something similar with Star Wars. They did something similar with either The Force Awakens or with The Last Jedi. I can't remember which one it was, but they did something similar. So I saw it pop up on my Twitter feed, Ben, but I haven't seen it. I did save it, so I'm going to watch it later, but I haven't seen it yet. Habitat for Huge Manatee writes, do you feel the trailers for Mortal Engines and Alita Battle Angel came out too soon? I don't hear anyone talking about either one anymore. Yes. I have been saying for years, they put out, not all films, but a lot of films put out first trailers and everything far too early. Far too early. Now, in the case of Mortal Engines, to me, that was just like what I would call an announcement. That was just basically, hey, announcing to the world, hey guys, in a year, we've got this movie coming out. It didn't feel like a full trailer. They just gave you, hey, look, if you're a fan of this book, here's this book coming to life. To me, it was really just kind of an announcement video, you know? And that kind of thing I can kind of get. But for the Alita Battle Angel one, yeah, that was too soon. There's no point. You know, and it's funny because we have movies coming out and we get to about still 5 months before a movie comes out and people like are writing me, John, where's the trailer for this? There's no trailer for that. Should we be worried? Should we be panicking? It's like, it's almost half a year till the movie comes out, everybody. Take a breath. It's okay. We're fine. We don't need, but yeah, I think there's a trend of putting these trailers out far too early. Because by the time you get anywhere near the movie actually coming out, any effect of that trailer is dissipated. It's gone. So you just wasted tons of money and attention on something that wasn't going to have any impact later on. I really don't think they should really start these marketing campaigns till within 5 months. 5, 4, 3 months is when you should start really doing marketing campaigns to get the best bang for your buck. And I think that's the way they should go. Personally, that's just my opinion. Frank and Beans writes, let's see. GC, that's Giovanni Campea. So stoked. T-minus 6 hours till I can see Infinity War. Please, Gunner glasses on sale for mass drop of cheap. For mass drop of cheap. for mass, drop for cheap. Not sure what that means. Take care. And yes, the countdown is on. It's no longer months. It's no longer weeks. It's no longer even days. It's hours and minutes that we're now counting down for Infinity War. It's just kind of crazy. All right, let's try this here. Next one comes to us from Samantha Elliott, who writes, "Oh my God, the bit when, and then the bit when. I need to talk about it. Is it acceptable to hire a therapist just to talk about Infinity spoilers? Don't worry, Dr. Campea is here. Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're going to do a full 2-hour open, wide, spoiler-filled discussion about the movie. Make sure you come back, Samantha, and join us on Sunday." All right, Orange Hand writes, "Just saw Big Fish for the first time. Thoughts? Not a big fan. Not a big fan of Big Fish." Look, first of all, I'm not a big fan of Tim Burton. I know a lot of people consider that sacrilegious. He's got a couple of films I like, but for the most part, I'm not really a Tim Burton fan per se. Ewan McGregor was strong in it. To me, it wasn't really coherent. It didn't flow well. I'm honestly not a big fan. It is weird to think that movie, that came out in like 2003. 2002, 2003. That movie's like 15 years old now, which is crazy. But anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, but yeah, I didn't get much out of it. Next one comes to us from Stephen Raleigh, who writes, "Do you think Tag might be a sleeper hit? I've been to a couple of movies, and that trailer seems to be getting a lot of laughs." I don't even think it's going to be a sleeper hit. I think expectations are going to be pretty good. Because I agree, for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, Jeremy Renner, John Hamm, brand new comedy called Tag about this group of friends who have been playing a game of tag for 30 years. It looks hilarious. The premise may sound dumb, but if you watch the trailer, I thought the trailer was great. I thought it got me hooked. And that's what we always say is the job of a good trailer, right? The job of a trailer is to take whatever excitement level you're at, whether it's high or low, and increase your excitement level. The trailer for Tag took my almost non-existent interest in this movie and put it up pretty high. It took me from like a 0.5 to like a 7, just like that. I think this movie looks really good, and I think it could be a hit. It could be a hit. I mean, not $700 million worldwide hit, but like 400 million, something like that. Depending on how funny it is, who knows, maybe the movie will be garbage. We'll find out pretty soon. All right, next one comes to us from, where'd we go? Mickey Bush 87 says, "Shout out to Jonah Hill. Dude looks like a superhero now. Someone give him a franchise." I don't know what he looks like right now. I do know this. Jonah Hill's a dude who has been really, really heavy and then got really, really skinny and then got really, really heavy again. And is he back to skinny again? Hey, look, if he's doing it for his roles, good on him. If he's doing it because he's struggling, I hope he gets some help. But I haven't seen what he looks like recently. So I hope he's looking good. I hope you're not being sarcastic. I hope he's actually looking good and feeling good these days. Gary Cazelli writes, "Remember the pronunciation? Ooh, I don't know. I think maybe I do, maybe I don't. You'll have to tell me if I did Cazelli right or not. Just wanted to chime in and say that I can confirm there's a good Canadian quality poutine in Seattle." Well, I'll be the judge of that. Whether it's good Canadian-style poutine or not. But then again, Seattle is close to the border, so it has a higher chance of having good poutine than, say, a place like Los Angeles, that there's places around here that serve poutine. Not good poutine. Okay, Javier Belmer writes, "About to watch Infinity War for a second time. Woohoo! I'm really excited for you." And the last question we're taking today comes to us from Johnny Oseguera, who writes, Today scumbags on Facebook started sharing spoilers, including deaths. Sometimes I really hate humanity. Anyways, keep fighting the good fight, John. I mean, yeah, there's nothing you can do. Once the spoilers get out there, they're going to get disseminated everywhere. So special thanks to Forbes for facilitating so many trolls getting their hands on these things and helping along the speed at which all the spoilers were disseminated. Thanks so much, Forbes, for that, you jackasses. Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but you know what? Now the movie's opening. Hopefully you're seeing it tonight or tomorrow, hopefully, latest Saturday, and then you won't have to worry about it anymore. And like I said a little bit earlier in the show, I've seen false spoilers going around, so maybe you're going to get lucky and the spoilers you heard weren't actually spoilers. Keep our fingers crossed. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thanks for being here. Listen, guys, don't forget, if you're somebody who enjoys my programming, do me a favor. head on over to www.patreon.com/JohnCampea and get all the information there about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps this show on the air, and what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter. And maybe you'll decide to sign up and be a Patreon supporter too. And my many thanks to all the amazing Patreon supporters that we already have. We got a great Facebook group there along the way as well. Also, guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter, simply @JohnCampea. That will do it for me, guys. My name's John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining me, and until my next video, bye-bye.